Chapter 1, A Time Before. Many of us don't remember this, but a long time ago, we lived inside our mother's wombs. We were tiny living human beings. There were two hearts inside your mother's body, her own heart and your heart. During this time, your mother did everything for you. She breathed for you, ate for you, drank for you. You were linked to her through your umbilical cord. Oxygen and food came to you through the umbilical cord, and you were safe and content inside of your mother. You were never too hot or too cold. You were very comfortable. You rested on a soft cushion made of water. In China and Vietnam, we call the womb the palace of the child. You spent about 9 months in the palace. The 9 months you spent in the womb were some of the most pleasant times of your life. Then the day of your birth arrived. Everything felt different around you, and you were thrust into a new environment. You felt cold and hunger for the first time. Sounds were too loud, lights were too bright. For the first time, you felt afraid. This is original fear. Inside the palace of the child, you did not need to use your own lungs. But at the moment of your birth, someone cut the umbilical cord, and you were no longer physically joined with your mother. Your mother could no longer breathe for you. You had to learn how to breathe on your own for the first time. If you could not breathe on your own, you would die. Birth was an extremely precarious time. You were pushed out of the palace and you encountered suffering. You tried to inhale, but it was difficult. There was some liquid in your lungs, and to breathe in, you had to first push out that liquid. We were born, and with that birth, our fear was born, along with the desire to survive. This is original desire. As infants, each one of us knew that to survive, we had to get someone to take care of us. Even after our umbilical cord was cut, we still had to rely entirely on adults to survive. When you depend on someone or something else to survive, it means that a link, a kind of invisible umbilical cord, is still there between you. When we grow up, our original fear and original desire are still there. Although we are no longer babies, we still fear that we cannot survive, that no one will take care of us. Every desire we will have in our lives has its root in this original fundamental desire to survive. As babies, we all find ways to ensure our survival. We may have felt very powerless. We had legs but could not walk. We had hands but could not grasp anything. We had to figure out how to get someone else to protect us, take care of us, and ensure our survival. Everyone is afraid sometimes. We fear loneliness, being abandoned, growing old, dying, and being sick, among many other things. Sometimes we may feel fear without knowing exactly why. If we practice looking deeply, we see that this fear is the result of that original fear from the time we were newborns, helpless and unable to do anything for ourselves. Even though we have grown into adults, that original fear and original desire are both still alive. Our desire to have a partner is, in part, a continuation of our desire for someone to take care of us. As adults, we are often afraid to remember or be in touch with that original fear and desire because the helpless child in us is still alive. We have not had a chance to talk to him or her. We have not taken the time to care for the wounded child, the helpless child within. For most of us, our original fear continues in some form. Sometimes we might feel scared of being alone. We may feel that alone I can't make it. I have to have somebody. This is a continuation of our original fear. If we look deeply, however, we will find that we have the capacity to calm our fear and find our own happiness. We need to look closely at our relationships to see whether they are based primarily on mutual need or mutual happiness. We have a tendency to think that our partner has the power to make us feel good and that we are not okay unless we have that other person there. We think, I need this person to take care of me or I will not survive. If your relationship is based on fear rather than on mutual understanding and happiness, it does not have a solid foundation. You may feel you require that person for your own happiness, and yet at some point, you may find the presence of the other person to be a nuisance and want to get rid of him. Then you know for sure that your feelings of peace and security did not really come from that person. Similarly, if you like to spend a lot of your time at a cafe, it may not be because that particular cafe is so interesting. It may be because you are afraid of being alone. You feel that you always have to be with other people. When you turn on the television, it may not be because there is a fascinating program you want to see. It's because you are afraid of being alone with yourself. If you are afraid of what other people might think of you, it comes from that same place. You are afraid that if others think negatively about you, they won't accept you and you will be left all alone in danger. So, if you need others to always think well of you, that is a continuation of that same original fear. If you regularly go shopping to buy yourself new clothes, it's because of that same desire. You want to be accepted by others. You are afraid of rejection. You are afraid you will be abandoned and left alone with no one to take care of you. We have to look deeply to identify the original primal fear and desire that are behind so many of our behaviors. Every one of the fears and desires that you have today is a continuation of original fear and desire. One day I was walking and I felt something like an umbilical cord linking me to the sun in the sky. I saw very clearly that if the sun was not there, I would die right away. Then I saw an umbilical cord linking me to the river. I knew that if the river was not there, I would also die because there would be no water for me to drink. And I saw an umbilical cord linking me to the forest. The trees in the forest were creating oxygen for me to breathe. Without the forest, I would die. And I saw an umbilical cord linking me to the farmer who grows the vegetables, wheat, and rice that I cook and eat. When you practice meditation, you begin to see things that other people do not see. Although you don't see all these umbilical cords, they were there, linking you to your mother, your father, the farmer, the sun, the river, the forest, and so on. Meditation can include visualization. If you were to draw a picture of yourself with these many umbilical cords, you would discover that there are not only 5 or 10, but maybe hundreds or thousands of them, and you are linked to them all. In Plum Village, where I live in southwest France, we like to use gathas, short practice poems that we recite silently or out loud throughout the day to help us live deeply every action of our daily life. We have a gatha for waking up in the morning, a gatha for brushing our teeth, and even gathas for using the car or the computer. The gatha we say as we serve our food goes like this. In this food, I saw clearly the presence of the entire universe supporting my existence. Looking deeply into the vegetables, we see sunshine is inside them, a cloud is inside, the earth is inside, and a lot of hard, loving work is also there in the food before us. Looking in this way, even if no one else is sitting down with us to share that meal, we know that our community, our ancestors, Mother Nature, and the whole cosmos are right there with us and inside us in every moment. We never need to feel alone. One of the first things we can do to soothe our fear is to talk to it. You can sit down with that fearful child inside and be gentle with him or her. You might say something like this: Dear little child, I am your adult self. I would like to tell you that we are no longer a baby, helpless and vulnerable. We have strong hands and strong feet. We can very well defend ourselves. So there is no reason why we have to continue to be fearful anymore. I believe that talking to the child like that can be very helpful because the inner child may be deeply wounded and the child has been waiting for us to come back to her. All her childhood wounds are still there, and we have been so busy that we have had no time to go back and help the child heal. That is why it's very important to take the time to go back, to recognize the presence of the wounded child in us, to talk to him and try to help him heal. We can remind him several times that we are no longer a helpless child. We have grown up into an adult and we can very well take care of ourselves. Heading: Practice talking to your inner child. Put down two cushions. First, sit on one cushion and pretend you are the helpless, vulnerable child. You express yourself. Dear one, I am very helpless. I cannot do anything. It's very dangerous. I am going to die. Nobody is taking care of me. You have to speak the language of the baby. And while you are expressing yourself like that, if the feelings of fear, hopelessness, stress, and helplessness come up, please allow them to come up and recognize them. Allow the helpless child enough time to express herself fully. This is very important. After she has finished, move to the other cushion to play the role of the adult self. As you look at the other cushion, imagine the helpless child is sitting there and talk to her. Listen to me, I am your adult self. You are no longer a helpless child. We have grown up into an adult already. We have enough intelligence to protect ourselves, to survive by ourselves. We don't need someone to take care of us anymore. When you try this, you will see that the feeling of safety and security you want to feel does not need to come from clinging to another person or from constantly distracting yourself. Acknowledging and soothing the fear within is the first step in letting it go. Understanding that we are now safe is essential for those of us who have suffered abuse, fear, or pain in our past. Sometimes we may need a friend, a brother, a sister, a teacher to help us not fall back into the past. We have grown up. We are now capable not just of defending ourselves but of living fully in the present moment and giving to others.